How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the Apples and Geno's Fantasy Hockey Podcast. My name's Josh Hutchinson, and I've got John Binkle with me here today. How you doing, John?
I'm great, buddy. My Eagles just pulled off a trade for Robert Quinn where they don't have to eat any of the salary for a middle round pick, and they're sitting way atop the NFC East right now. So go Birds. My fantasy hockey teams, on the other hand, not so much, not flying as high. A ton of slow starters across my rosters. It's been like daily, do I want to bail on this player, and I don't end up doing it at the expense of my early week. So it's been painful, but I feel like the smart thing to do. Just chock full of like don't sell low players. But the weather here in Dallas has finally broken to the cold side of things for the year, and I'm really looking forward to sweater weather. Obviously, got my Capitals sweater on tonight.
Yeah, baby.
Myself and the audience are super glad to have you back in the saddle. How are you now? Getting any sleep?
Thank you. I mean, I'm getting sleep. It's not as much as I probably should be, but that's okay. It's I think last night I did all right, but yeah, it's been good. It's been really nice to spend time with my kids, and I feel like I'm really connecting with my older daughter. I'm taking some time off work to help out with the kids, and it's been really good so far. Even if I'm not getting a ton of sleep, so
it's worth it. It makes my heart super full to hear that. That's cool, man.
Yeah. Thanks again for leaving us a review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you haven't and you're enjoying our content, please just take a second and leave us a review. We would greatly appreciate it. Also, check out the Apples and Geno's Discord server. It's a great place to talk fantasy hockey, get your questions answered, and also receive alerts when new Apples and Geno's content drops. So I am stoked to be back. I'm stoked to be talking fantasy hockey. It's midweek moves time. We're here on Wednesday of week 3 to talk about schedule maximization for the rest of the week and who you should be adding, dropping, selling high, or buying low. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So for the rest of the week, there are 4 teams that have 3 games left from Thursday to Sunday. Those teams are Chicago Blackhawks, Minnesota Wild, Toronto Maple Leafs, and the Winnipeg Jets. Of those 4, Toronto has the best schedule next week with 3 games and 2 off nights. Winnipeg also has a back-to-back Thursday and Friday, and then a game Sunday. So they actually have the best schedule out of the teams to end this week, not including next week. So they're an interesting option as well. I think, yeah, so they avoid the Saturday, and the Saturday has 12 games, I believe. So that's a heavy night. You're probably going to have a hard time fitting people in. I mean, as usual on a Saturday night. And then there are a few other teams that have 2 games on both off nights. So those teams are Anaheim, Arizona, Columbus, New Jersey, Vegas. They all have games on Friday and Sunday. Anaheim has 4 games next week. So a stream from them could carry over into next week, and that could save an ad. And you get potentially 4 games out of that player next week. The problem is they don't really have a ton of guys that you want to be streaming. The Leafs are kind of the same. They're a pretty top-heavy team, but we're going to dive into a few ads here, a few guys that you should be adding from these teams. So the first guy I want to talk about is Nick Robertson. So he's 24% rostered right now in Yahoo. He is top 6 or 7 on the team in individual shot attempts per 60 with 15.92 and individual scoring chances for per 60 with 9.29. So those are decent numbers. And he's playing on line 2 right now with John Tavares and Nylander, who are really the only line that are going right now for the Leafs. JT has been a revelation. He's kind of turning back the clock a little bit. All the people that were concerned about age-related decline are pretty quiet right now. So Tavares has looked awesome. Nylander has looked pretty much steady Eddie, normal William Nylander. even when the team is not playing well, they seem to be racking up points. And Nick Robertson playing on their wing, like that's a pretty good position for him. So he's not on PP1, but he does have that nice deployment with JT and Nylander, and he has 3 points in his 3 games. So he is a solid pickup. Probably the only one I'm super interested in for Toronto. I guess Alex Kerfoot was taking line rushes with Matthews and Marner at practice today. Still not super stoked about that. Kerfoot has played with them before. And I mean, I like Kerfoot as a player in general, but just not as a guy that generates a ton of offense. I feel like watching him, you notice him on the ice, but he doesn't actually do a lot. Like he's everywhere, but like there's a lot of like inefficient movement, inefficient use of energy. I don't really know how to describe it, but I think he's a good depth forward, but I don't think he's gonna last on that top line. I think Bunting's gonna pop back up there pretty quickly. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on Nick Robertson?
I honestly don't have any thoughts on Nick Robertson that are like original. I'm mostly just curious what you have seen in his actual play, right? Because the stats look phenomenal. And this is what we were kind of all expecting to eventually happen for him on the Leafs, was to hit left wing on that second line and to really like push the production of his career in a like an upward trajectory, right? But I don't really know what happened since the call up, other than that he scored 2 goals against Dallas, and I didn't see that game, right?
Okay.
So, like, what has been especially noteworthy about his play? Like, obviously, he's getting the opportunity on a really, really quality second line in the NHL, but what is he personally doing that's giving him this individual Corsi 4, right?
Yeah, I think on the Leafs, I mean, it's all relative. They are extremely top heavy. So they have Matthews and Marner on the top line, Tavares and Nylander on the second line, and then they really struggle to get secondary scoring. And what Robertson brings is a scoring touch. He has a shot. Like this guy has an elite NHL shot. Not the greatest skater in the world. He isn't afraid to get into the corner, and I don't know. He does get back defensively. Doesn't necessarily always do the right thing, but there's no lack of trying for Nick Robertson. But yeah, like definitely could use some work on skating. But he's tenacious, and when he gets into a position and gets the puck and is able to get a shot on net, like he's got an elite NHL shot. So that is something that the Leafs lack outside of their top 4. So that's why I'm a fan of Robertson, and I hope he sticks.
You don't think he's going to be supplanted? Obviously, you're saying the depth kind of falls off a cliff there.
Yeah,
it's not gonna be Yarncrook, like
yeah.
You were talking about Alex Kerfoot, and we both know that's a bottom 6 player, right? Like, so
yeah.
It seems like the only place for him really to go would be up, right? So it all sounds.
I would think so.
I was certainly excited about him as a player. I do have to ask though, what happened to Malgin? Where did he just like take a long off a short cliff? Like, what happened?
I think he scored a goal in his first game, and then the next 2 or 3, he didn't really move the needle a ton. So I think they wanted to give Robertson a shot. So the reason why Robertson didn't make the team in the first place is because of cap issues. So once they were able to put, I believe, Jake Muzzin on LTIR, that was enough salary that they could start calling up guys like Wayne Simmons, Kyle Clifford, and Nick Robertson. So finally, they were able to put Robertson into the lineup, and I think Malgin. It's not that he was bad; he just wasn't necessarily moving the needle for that line, or like doing a ton. I don't know. I don't really know. So he's. It looks like he's going to slot back in for this next game against the Sharks, but not on that line. Like Robertson has played well enough to stay on on that line with Tavares and Nylander. I think Malgin is going to play with I can't remember who. It doesn't really matter, but lower in the lineup. But he is drawing back in. I think he does deserve another shot, but I would still I wouldn't be picking him up because I don't think he's going to get favorable deployment.
I don't know, man. 24%. That seems pretty easily tangible. I like it.
Oh, for Robertson, for sure. Yeah.
Who you got next?
I got Mason McTavish. So we talked about Anaheim. They have that nice Friday, Saturday schedule for the rest of the week, and then 4 games next week. So that's a pretty ideal situation. They stink. They haven't been good at all. But Mason McTavish, I like him a lot. He's 25% roster, just a little bit higher than Robertson. And he's top 5 on the team in individual shot attempts per 60 with 12.93, and also individual scoring chances 4 per 60 with 9.7. So very similar numbers to Nick Robertson, actually. He is playing on line 2 and power play 1. So that's pretty favorable deployment for him. And he has 4 assists in 6 games, despite them getting stomped most nights. He's still getting on the score sheet. I think he has so much upside. I think McTavish is only going to continue to get better. And yeah, I don't know. What do you think of Mason McTavish? I'm probably going to be picking him up in a league or two.
I bought pretty heavily into the narrative that his play style was going to take a little bit longer than you would hope in this situation, right? Even with the premium deployment. It is more exciting considering his line mates are Strome and Vetrano, who I'm relatively high on, even though I'm a well-known hater of bad teams on my fantasy roster, right? I think it's kind of noteworthy, though, that he's maxing at 3 shots per game. So I'm really interested in this super busy stretch that they have coming up, because over the weekend, it's going to be some top-level opposition, and then throughout the heavy slate next week, they're going to play the Sharks twice. Like it's going to be a little bit lower competition. And one of the things I'm always paying attention to with kind of middle of the pack roster players, especially younger ones like McTavish, is how they do in like a premium importance game versus kind of a game that they can probably like slide in with a victory on, right? So I'm really excited to watch over these next 7 games or so. I don't really love McTavish like as a player. Like I bought pretty heavily into that narrative. I think I'm a little bit more interested in Vetrano and kind of knowing a little bit better what I can expect from the production.
Yeah, so I was kind of tossing around both names when I was looking at Anaheim, Vetrano and McTavish, and McTavish actually has better underlyings than Vetrano from what I can see so far. So I don't know. I'm still feeling good about McTavish and that power play 1 deployment for as long as he's there. I think that's the biggest factor for me. The next guy I'm going to talk about. So this is unfortunate. I have him in my notes here, but actually there's been some deployment changes in Columbus, but Boone Jenner is still only 43% rostered. He is 3rd on the team in both individual shot attempts per 60 with 16.05 and individual scoring chances 4 per 60 with 10.94. He's been great. And up until this point, he's been line 1, power play 1, but then down to power play 2. He has 4 points in 8 games, but he has 25 shots on goal, 12 hits, 15 blocks. So in a Bangers Cats, man, there's no excuse to not have Boone Jenner. Obviously, that center only eligibility is, I can understand why you'd have trouble fitting him into your lineup. But yeah, in a Bangers Cats league, he's money, man. But right now, as of today, one of the Columbus beat reporters had tweeted that Roslovic was actually playing between Laine and Gaudreau 5-on-5 at practice. So that's really interesting. Not sure how I feel about that. I don't think that's going to work out, but they're looking to shake things up in Columbus. So, but regardless, I think Boone Jenner is a great player. I think he deserves to be rostered more, and I think you should take a serious look at him if he's available.
Yeah, 43% is at least 20% too low, right? Like going into the season, we had question marks about whether he was going to be the 1C, whether he was going to get that prime pairing with the Gunners, and that's seriously cemented, right? Even with Roslovic getting this jump up, like you kind of have to figure they're going to just kind of ruffle things a little bit as Line comes back in, and then they'll settle right back into it, right? Like I don't know why they wouldn't do that. Jenner has given us the production and honestly more if we're talking about shot totals, right, than you would expect thus far, that you would hope for thus far. And Sillinger is not getting any burn, right? Roslovic seems like a tryout, because other than what we're hearing about the bump up in lines, like his production is not anything that's wowed you that said this guy needs to be getting top level minutes. So I feel really good about it. 43% seems incredibly low in really in any format, but especially in Bangers Cats.
Yeah, for sure. And the last couple of guys I want to talk about are a couple of guys from New Jersey. So Nate's talked about these guys recently, but it's Nico Hischier and Dawson Mercer. So Hischier is 47% rostered, and his underlying is great. His individual shot attempts per 60 are 14.69 and 11.01 individual scoring chances 4 per 60, and he has 7 points in 6 games. So he has counting stats to back up these underlying numbers. Plus he's got line 1, power play 1. Nico Hischier, man, there's again no excuse to not have this guy on your team. Similar to Boone Jenner, but actually even more so in terms of point production. So in pretty much any league, I think you should be trying to find a spot for Nico Hischier if he's available. Dawson Mercer also, I mean, he's more readily available. He's 21% rostered, also has great numbers. Actually, his numbers are slightly better than Nico Hischier's in terms of underlyings, but he just has 4 points in 7 games, and actually his deployment has gotten a little bit worse. He's still playing on PP1, but he's down to line 3. So he had a little bit less ice time. They have him instead of playing on Hughes's wing, they have him down playing center on line 3. So not quite as favorable there. So I don't know if that will cause his numbers to dip a little bit, but still like Dawson Mercer in a deeper league. But yeah, Nico Hischier, man. I mean, anyone on New Jersey right now, you take a look at their natural stat trick page and at the individual numbers. They're all borderline elite. The top 9-10 forwards on that team. It's crazy. They've been playing so well. They just need a save.
Just one.
Yeah.
In rate stats on natural stat trick, like if you are just looking at box scores, you are not getting the full story on the Devils like at all, right? Like they seriously are an offensive powerhouse. It's like kind of unreal. Like we thought that they would take another step, but this is like their shots for per 60 it's a whole tier above the entire next tier. Like they're so far ahead. It's kind of unbelievable. And for them to be essentially a defensive system with the coaching that they have is like, just a save. And they'd be a totally elite team in the NHL. I really love Devils Flyers. The offense is humming. I also like Palat quite a bit. I mentioned it on the last show. Probably a little bit more available than these two players. They're really getting the shine right now, especially because he's out with an undetermined lower body injury right now. So also noteworthy, Eric Hall only getting 15% rosterships in Yahoo and serving up category stats. Probably really under the radar because he is yet to score, and just now, I think yesterday, got an assist, right? So not showing up in the box scores, not getting anywhere near your like most added list, and certainly a viable option. Like he's doing everything except collect points. So I mean, Nate joked about it on Twitter just the other day. Like you could pick any of the Devils right now. It
Yeah.
really could be any one of them. So
Yeah, man. Yeah, you can't go wrong. I think I got Sharon Govich in the cupful for the week, and he's been awesome.
I
He's
mean,
been
they
so
all
good
feel
for
like
me.
you just feel good picking up a Devil right now, right? Like it
Yeah,
just feels right, no matter who
yeah,
it is.
absolutely. All right, let's move on to some guys you should drop. So I think we each brought one to the table. I'll start. My guy's Noah Hannafin. So Calgary only has one game remaining this week on Saturday. So not, I mean, you'd be lucky to fit him in your lineup anyways. If you have, unless you only have 4D on your team, I guess. But, and then he has 3 games next week with 0 off nights. He has 0 points so far this year. He's only playing on power play 2. And power play 1 in Calgary has been playing twice as much as power play 2 over the last 3 games, according to Frozen Tools. Yeah, I mean, not super excited about Noah Hannafin. He's still in like the mid 60% rostership right now. So if you're trying to decide on someone to stream, he's probably a guy that is pretty safe to drop right now in terms of the way he's performed and then also their schedule for the next little bit. So yeah, I'd be dropping Hannafin.
I think that's a great drop, and it is totally worth noting. Like I had a lot of trouble pulling a drop list this week. Like
Yeah,
there are so many players right now where I'm like, I mean, even in my own fantasy teams where I'm like, I'd rather just sit on this,
just wait it out.
Just wait it out. I want to see another. Let's just get to double this period before I can really feel confident about being super down on a player. Top of that list for me, I would have said Brock Besser, just considering the state of the team and the other options on the wing that they have that could really, really easily kind of take his spot over. But he went on undisclosed IR early today. And I have to feel that last night's time on ice versus Buffalo of 12:55 was pretty indicative. Like there's a lot of conjecture about what the issue is. What I know is that things are not working for them, and they have lots of other options who have at least like sparked a little bit. Wheeler played 20 plus minutes in that game, right? So Wheeler is an option to go for him. I like Brock Besser. I think he has the ability, but right now he would have been a drop for me. He's on your IR now. So
I can't believe Blake Wheeler is playing 20 minutes in this day and age in the NHL. Oh man, for a guy that doesn't play defense, that guy plays a lot.
he'll try anything right now.
Yeah, I guess so. So now we're gonna get into some sell high and buy low candidates. So I got a couple guys here that I like to talk about, and honestly, I mean, a lot of people are talking about these guys, but I think they're the two that are the most obvious that you should at least attempt to get feelers out for. So my 2 sell high guys are Alex Tuch and Dominic Kubalik. So Tuch obviously has 6 goals and 7 points in 6 games. Shooting percentage right now is 35.3%. That's obviously not going to stay there. Yeah, really, really good. I mean, he's looked great. Buffalo's looked pretty good. But yeah, I would be trying to sell Alex Tuch if you can. Maybe for one of these buy low candidates that we're going to talk about. The other one's Dominic Kubalik. He's among the NHL leaders in scoring right now. He has 10 points in 6 games. He has an increased opportunity right now. He's on line 1 and power play 1 with Bertuzzi and Vrana out right now. Bertuzzi's out 3 to 4 weeks, I believe. And Vrana is out indefinitely. I think he's in the player assistance program.
Yeah.
For something undisclosed. So we'll see if he's back at any point this year. Hopefully he is. But yeah, not sure. I'm not sure that he's going to sustain this deployment when they return. He's also never been this player to play top line, top power play. I just think I think he's getting so lucky, and I've got some stats to back that up. So his IPP right now is 90.91%.
That's
And
that's unreal.
that's really high. And he's typically in the low 70s. So probably going to see some negative regression there. On ice shooting percentage is 18.67%, also insanely high. His shooting percentage himself is 25%, and his career average is typically closer to 10%. Although he did shoot 19% in his rookie season when he was a Calder Trophy candidate a few years ago. So, I mean, it could be that he's a higher percentage shooter than his career average, but I mean, the jury's still out there. And his individual shot attempts per 60 and individual scoring chances 4/60 are actually lower than his career averages right now. So he's actually generating less, but producing more. So
Way more. Not just more, but way more.
It really seems like there's a lot of luck here. I don't think it's gonna last, and I don't think this deployment's gonna last. So I would be fucking trying to sell Kubalik so fast if you have him. If you picked him up on the waiver wire last week or whenever, yeah, and you're streaming and holding right now, sell the shit out of this guy because it's not gonna last, bud.
It's funny because I am doing that in multiple leagues. And it kind of makes me feel like a genius because you're like, oh, well, clearly this is what happens when I make this move, right?
Has it worked? Have you been able to trade him?
Oh no, it hadn't. It had not even occurred to me to try and trade him because
Okay.
You're absolutely like he is hashtag fool's gold, right? Like
Yeah.
the role can't be the same. Going like something will change for this team, whether it's how they choose to split up the power plays or how they want to roll these lines out, or if one of literal three players comes back into the fold, counting Raymond, whether you're just like, who knows what's going on with how they're using Raymond. Like nothing about him as a player thus far told you, yeah, this is sustainable, like expected stuff, and nothing about the role. Like I'm really just enjoying the ride, and the moment that it's like, oh, this might be over, is gone. Like,
Yeah,
probably a little bit before then.
sure. You just better hope it's not too late to sell high. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I just can't
Enjoy
imagine
it.
someone would buy. I just like,
Yeah, no, you're probably right. I don't know. I feel like we're in pretty competitive leagues where people are too smart. I've been putting feelers out, trying to buy low, and it hasn't worked out for me very well so far.
I'm just getting pounded with offers to buy low on Timo Meyer and JT
Yep.
Miller. And I'm like, I spent way too much draft capital for me to even really consider it. But
for sure.
in either case, I'm like, how low do you think this player is? Like,
Yeah.
you know, we're not talking about 40 games in the season. Like, you're making me laugh.
So we're kind of bleeding over into the buy low category. Do you have anyone to sell high before we move on?
Yeah, it's probably another case of can you sell high? Although the buzz and the narrative behind this player got up to a roar there for a minute. My sell high is Konechny, 52% rostered, right? So better than half of the people want him. Only 3 games this coming next week. 2 of them are on super heavy nights. Got benched last night by Torts, so maybe that love affair is over.
I didn't know that, actually.
Yeah, got benched.
Oh, shoot.
12:25 time on ice. Didn't play the third period. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but with Tortorella, does it even really matter? Like,
yeah, I don't know, man.
So if he feels like a player, like the luster is already starting to wear off, there's a rift going on with coaching. Like, who knows what that means for his play and their play going forward. And the upcoming schedule for them is going to be particularly rough. Like, you might not be wanting to play him this time next week anyway. Like, you should probably go ahead and get off him right now while you can before he's just, a streaming level player for you again.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very fair. I didn't know that about him getting benched. So I am going to reconsider holding on to him in one of the leagues that I'm in right now.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out why that was. So if anybody
Yeah,
that's listening
that's
knows why
interesting.
he got benched, I would love
Yeah.
to hear it.
I mean, it happens with Torts all the time. So
Yeah, it does.
not a huge surprise. All
Towards
right, let's
Magic.
Torts Magic. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about buy low candidates here. So I mean, there's the obvious ones. Sam Reinhart is the big one for me. I have him in a couple leagues. That stock that I spent, that 5th, 6th round stock, it's really hurting right now. I've had a few offers, one from Nate actually, and I just can't do it. But I'd be trying to acquire him. But man, every night I'm watching Florida, and I'm just like, tonight's going to be the night, and it just doesn't happen, and it's getting really frustrating. So, I would still be buying low on Reinhardt, even though it's hurting me right now because I have him in multiple leagues. I'd be still trying to do it.
I love Reinhardt, the player. All of the team indicators for Florida are virtually top 5, right? Like the metrics say that good things are happening. The eye test does not say that. We were talking about that before we went live. Like they look bad. They look lacking, right? Maddie seems to be the only game in town for them. But the thing is that they have so much talent that even though I don't feel like the Panthers are going to turn a corner, I think if there is any player that you can really expect to turn a corner just individually, it's Reinhardt.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And then Timo Meyer, man, like I can't believe this guy hasn't scored yet. He's got 2 assists on the year, but just doing the same in terms of shot generation. I think Nate said that he had 19 shot attempts last night. just insane. Like this guy shoots from everywhere, which maybe is part of the problem. Is
maybe you're right.
He's just firing the puck on net from every which angle. So I don't know. I have Timo Meyer in one league. I would definitely be trying to buy low on him because he is. I mean, when he starts chipping in, he is a fantastic fantasy player. He's a top 15, top 20 guy, if not higher than that. So, yeah, definitely be buying low on Meyer. Buchnevich is another guy that I put down here. He has played one game and then was put on the IR. Don't know when he's coming back. He's not playing tonight. We'll see if he plays this Saturday, but I mean, Buchnevich is a fantastic player. I've seen him getting dropped in some leagues. So, you may be able to catch someone off guard, and trying to buy low on him just because of injury and because St. Louis just hasn't played a lot in general. And they're starting to, I mean, they have a heavier week this week. So, people may be getting a little bit frustrated with their Blues players. So, I think he's a guy that you should be throwing feelers out. That's not a name that I've heard as much from the people in the fantasy hockey space. And then the other one is Nikolai Ehlers for the same reason. Winnipeg didn't play a ton the first week. I think they only had one game. And then after 2 games, he has been injured. Not LTIR situation. Both situations are kind of unclear what the injury is. But I don't think that either of them are long term. I mean, we'll see. The jury's still out, but both guys are premium players, and I think you should be trying to buy low on them.
My concern level is a little bit higher on Buchnevich, considering that they kind of turtled out schedule wise to begin the year. He played a game and has not been playing since then. Like it makes me worry that whatever he's dealing with is kind of a pain management issue, and it is something that's like long-term affecting him, right? You can always pretty much bank on him missing 15 and change games a year. And I worry that it's going to be a little bit more this year and that he's going to be a diminished player while it happens. But frankly, I haven't seen enough of him playing to make any sort of judgment about that, right? It's just kind of more concerning than anything, especially for them, as a lot of teams do, where it's just lower body injury and, do what you will with that. Ehlers is definitely going to miss the next 3 on the road, even though he's going to travel with the team. He was playing really well to open the season, so I'm a little bit more confident in his return and a little bit more excited in investing in him. Whereas Buchnevich, I've actually gotten quite a few offers on as people attempt to buy low, and he's really been the player that I've actually considered selling.
Yeah, I think Buchnevich had 2 points in his one game that he played. So, I mean, if it is a pain management issue and he was dealing with it in that game, doesn't seem to be affecting him too much. I mean, he's a great player when he plays, but yeah, like you said, you can pretty much bank on him missing 10 games a year at the very least. So before we jump into the mailbag, I think I'm just gonna kind of take a look at my 0G article from the weekend and kind of do a 0G midweek update. I think we're gonna make this a segment on the pod. So again, I do a weekly 0G article called 0G to Victory. It's supposed to help you guys find some 0G candidates. If, say, your goaltending situation isn't what you expected, or if you employed the 0G strategy in your drafts, this is where we're going to try and find the diamonds in the rough, try and find those Ville Hussos, try and find those James Reimers, which, speaking of James Reimer, his stock seems to be rising. Anyways, I talked a little bit about Eric Comrie and Mackenzie Blackwood, about that, how they had really nice schedules this week. And I bought really hard. I picked them up in almost every league, one or the other, whoever was available. And both of them stunk in their first games. They both got completely lit up with like mid 700 save percentages. Not looking super great. Vitek Vanacek actually played the second half of the back-to-back after Blackwood got pulled the night before, and the Devils won. And I would guess that Vanacek is probably going to get the start tomorrow. So that doesn't look super great for Mackenzie Blackwood. But yeah, keep an eye out. I mean, Vanacek's still pretty readily available too. So if you want to swap them out, if you see that he's starting, go for it. Eric Comrie, I'm not 100% convinced that he's not going to start this next game. If obviously they still are playing 2 pretty weak teams. I think it's Montreal and Chicago. I could be wrong. Chicago for sure. But I mean, they look like a fucking wagon right now. So who knows? They've won 4 in a row, I think. Yeah, but anyways, Eric Comrie didn't look good in that game. Has looked great otherwise. I think if they continue to roll with him, I'd still be hanging on at least for another game. If he doesn't start this next game, maybe moving on from him. James Reimer, like I said, his stock is rising. He's been great. San Jose has not been great. James Reimer has been steady Eddie. It's what he did all year last year. Doesn't allow a lot of goals and has a lot of shots against, makes a lot of saves, doesn't allow a lot of goals, doesn't get a lot of wins because San Jose doesn't score a lot. And right now, Timo Meier isn't scoring at all. And he's their best player by far. So James Reimer is definitely a guy that I am interested in. And his stock is rising. Like I said, his rostership, I believe, has jumped up 10% since I wrote the article on the weekend. So people are starting to figure it out. So I'd be jumping on James Reimer coming up here. And
I do have a question about falling goalie stock, though.
Yeah.
Where are you on the LA Kings goaltending situation? Is there a player that you are wanting to invest in their matchups? Are you avoiding the situation entirely? Because from what I can tell, both of them have been super piss poor, and it doesn't really seem to matter the opponent or how the defense is playing. Like, they really both seem to be like just not wanting to win the tandem at all. Like
Yeah.
I can't make sense of it.
LA in general, yeah. I think I said in the article that they're both competing for the backup role on the team. It seems like they both stink it up, and there's been a number of goaltending situations like that around the league this year. It's really frustrating as as someone that's trying to figure out who to invest in these goaltending controversies. But yeah, Cal Peterson's looked terrible. Jonathan Quick has had a few good games, so I think I'm still leading Jonathan Quick. But yeah, that's a situation that I haven't been touching. It's just very volatile. The Kings haven't really played particularly well. They've been super inconsistent. So, and defensively have been surprisingly not great either.
Yeah, it's really odd. They seem to be really porous. Like they're taking a lot of shots.
Yeah. As you would expect from the Kings, but yeah, not playing as well defensively as I would have expected this year. So those guys aren't really getting a ton of help, but they're not doing themselves any favors either. Quick looked good last night, so I still think he's got the edge. But yeah, not super big on LA. The other guy I wrote about was Alex Stalock, and right now he's looked the best out of the guys that I touched on from that list. So I mean, who would have thought? He was out of the NHL for basically 2 years, and now he's back.
He's back.
Kyle Davison is probably pulling his hair out because he's like, we're not supposed to be winning. I acquired 2 goalies that are bad.
It's like a major league situation. They're just winning as a middle finger to the organization.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, I think Jonathan Taves has played pretty well too. I don't know, man. Ride Stalock for as long as he can, I guess, but I wouldn't be surprised if he gets lit up in the next game. Chicago is such a weird team, but yeah, I mean, if you picked up Stalock, good on you.
Can't say I did.
Good for you. I did not take that chance.
All right. Before we move into the mailbag, I just want to get your temperature on 2, let's just say, top 7 goalies in the NHL. All right, because I actually was able to pick up one of these goalies when somebody dropped him. I was like, well, I have to wait on this. I have to pick it up and see what happens. Mm-hmm. Thatcher Demko, are you up or down on him in, let's just say, the next month?
I mean, you got to keep Thatcher Demko. He's one of the best goalies in the league. I don't think Vancouver is going to continue to be this bad. I mean, anything can happen. But I'm still hanging on to Thatcher Demko. I would even he might even be a buy low candidate, to be honest. But although I'm not really a big fan of buying goaltenders, I still, I'm a fan of Demko, and I think Vancouver is probably going to turn it around. Although it's gonna be difficult. I think it's a pretty nasty situation right now. Who's next?
One more that I'm sure not just myself, but a lot of people are on the fence about right now. Elvis Merzlikins. Are you up or down on him in the next month?
That's a more difficult situation. I think I'm still hanging on. I actually have him in 3 of my 6 leagues. So
he's been hurting.
Yeah, that's a situation that I'm still trying to figure out. That's another goaltending situation where it seems like no one wants the starting spot. They gave Tarasov 2 starts in a row, and then he got lit up. The second start that he was in. That's been happening, man. It's been hard. It's been hard to figure out the goaltending market so far in the year. But it's early, so yeah, I don't know. I think I'm still holding on to Merzlikins. I think he'll figure it out. I think they got Line A back. They've got the whole crew now. There's no excuses, no injuries. Hopefully he gets some goal support. I don't know. I'm hanging on to Merzlikins though for now.
All right. Before we have to move in the mailbag, before I forget, and I don't know how I can forget. This is all I can think about. Aiden Hill, 2 wins, carried a shutout into the third the other night. and looks absolutely fantastic on what seems to be the number one tandem for goalies in the NHL thus far. So I don't know what to make of Logan Thompson. I know Vegas looks really good just top to bottom, and feeling super good about my very hot take. So I'm just going to toot my horn while the horn can be tooted.
Yeah, that's fair. The only reason Hill hasn't been on my list is essentially what I weight the most in terms of my rankings is potential volume for the next week. And because Logan Thompson has been playing so much and he seems to be the starter right now, I just haven't had room for Hill on my list. Most weeks he's getting one start per week, which is I believe that's what he's gotten so far. I think he's only played 3 games, but he's been spectacular in those games. So definitely a guy that's on my radar. But yeah, I'm sure you'll see him on the list at some point this year.
They've got a series of back-to-backs coming. I can feel it. Yeah. It's coming in the air. I can feel it.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into the mailbag.
Woo!
So Gain Reach had a couple questions. They had a couple about the Senators situation. So Pinto versus Brassard, who fills in for Josh Norris? What do you think?
So of note, Norris, they're talking about 3 to 6 months, regardless of whether he has surgery, right? So whatever
Sounds like
this
he
move
might be
is,
done.
Whatever this move is, it's permanent to semi-permanent, right? So thinking about it a little bit more long-term instead of some like a stopgap for them. I think the second part of the question, does Giroux takes second line center and Joseph or Mott move up? Considering the play of Mott and how much he has been impacting the other 2 players that we should be talking about from that third line, I feel like long-term that is a better move for the team. I don't know if it's as likely because it doesn't seem like, at least from what I can tell about Claude Giroux, that at this point in his career, he wants to be bolstering a second line at center, right? Could he do it? Absolutely, he could do it. But is that what he wants from his new town where they brought him in to fill a certain role? I don't think so. I think they'd be a better team overall. It's definitely what I would do if I was like, just plug and playing. I'd be like, well, that's where you play now. But we're talking about, a highly respected veteran who may not necessarily want that. As far as the Pinto versus Brassard, I've never been super high on Pinto. Like even when he was in college, I was more excited about his dumpy line mate, Kawaguchi, right? Like who didn't even get drafted and is like middling somewhere in the Stars system. Like, so like as he doesn't really move the needle for me. And from what I have seen from that third line that has been kind of so shockingly effective, right? Their rate stats just put them up in the top 5, even though they've got like 2 or 3 games of burn. I'm more excited by Brassard, but I am just kind of biased against Pinto. Like thus far, nothing he's done has really impressed me. But I feel like it's probably Pinto's job to lose. And that's what DJ said when talking about Norris's injury. When he listed off players that could fill that role, he just did it in order. And Pinto was kind of his first one, and he expounded upon that, and then he just kind of listed off other players. So that seems like what it is. I think most noteworthy for the team in general, like a lot of people are racing to get Pinto and get someone on that line. I think it really kind of pushes the needle for Batherson and DeBrincat, right? They are going to be expected to do more than they were this time last week, right? Like, and they're both certainly capable of it. Like, and both of them definitely have the chip on their shoulder attitude that it takes to pick up the weight of losing Josh Norris, right? So I think needle wise, I'm way more interested in players that you might have to deal for or are already rostering. And I think that ceiling goes a little bit higher for both of those players. What do you think?
Yeah, I hear you. I don't want to glaze over this. Did you say Gabo Gucci? What's the dude's name?
Kawaguchi.
Kaboguchi?
Kawaguchi.
Kawa. I
Yeah, he
never heard that name in my life.
so he also was on that North Dakota team. I think
Okay.
Jordan. I've always called him Gooch. They call him
Okay.
Gucci, and
Yeah.
he's like this dumpy Asian Canadian dude.
Okay.
Yeah, like 5'9", like 210, just like kind of
Interesting.
like nice shot. Like he reminds me of an Asian Phil Kessel, like
Nice. Love
figure
it.
wise, right? Like just
Love
kind of
it.
dumpy.
Great.
But yeah, like on that team, Gooch would like kind of lazily skate into the slot and like snap off just a sick wrister. And there was like in those games that I watched with them, I was never very excited about Pinto, and he got a lot of credit. Like they were both in Hobie conversations, and that says a lot that I was more excited about a player who did not get drafted.
Yeah.
On a good
I suppose.
team. So
yeah, that's fair. I still think so. For the short term, it looks like Brassard is still taking line rushes on that line. He had a goal. I don't even think he was in the lineup until this past game where Norris was out, and then he scored a goal in the one game that he played. But Pinto has, I think, 6 or 7 points. 5 goals and an assist or something like that. And he's looked pretty solid. And a lot of that is 5-on-5. I think long term, I think Pinto will be the guy. Even if it's not right now, I think he's going to end up being the guy on that second line. I think the organization is really high on Pinto. The fan base is, the coaching staff is. Obviously, you said DJ Smith mentioned him first when talking about replacements. So I think, I don't think Brassard is going to be a long-term 2C there. I think
no, especially when he's been excelling third line.
Yeah, for sure. Gainreach also asked, preparing for Marchand's return, which it looks like he's taking line rushes in practice right now, which is pretty crazy.
Fourth
pretty
and
exciting.
Fifth round picks looking like a steal right now for
man,
Marchand.
For sure. Who gets the fourth forward spot on the Boston power play? So obviously you've got Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak. They're going to play on that power play. Obviously, those guys are staples. Who is the fourth guy that's going to play there? I think they threw out David Krejci, Jake DeBrusk, Taylor Hall. Were all great options. What do you think about that, Binksy? Who's getting that spot?
Man, I want to say that it's Krejci, but he has been doing so well 5-on-5, and he's not a young player, right? Like, so I don't know that they want to give him extra time on the ice, considering he has been playing so well right where he's at. Hall, the other end of the spectrum, he's not been playing super well, but has the youth, has the energy, has the time on ice to burn playing lower down. I feel like DeBrusk is who I personally would go with for them, because he seems to really thrive in that sidekick role, right? Once he gets kind of attached to something that is really clicking, then he turns it up just a little bit for the team. I imagine they're going to try all of it, especially with Marchand coming back. You know what I mean? Like things are going to change for them. But I know that I am rostering Krejci for what is already happening. And if I'm interested in picking up a player from this list, and these are all easily addable players for the most part, if I'm just interested in adding one to see how much further they can go, I feel like Krejci is the like actual value of your pickup, right? Like he could do more than what he's doing, and the other two are probably going to be right where they're at one way or the other.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think this season for the Bruins is kind of like the last dance. So my opinion, this is based on nothing, is that they're probably going to put Krejci there as the fourth forward, because it's like it's the old gang, right? They're trying to rekindle that magic, and Boston's looked fantastic so far. I think they're first in the league right now and in the standings. But yeah, I think if you look at some of the top power plays in the league over the last few years, you've got, I mean, the Leafs have Mitch Marner. The Oilers have Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. These guys that are pass first guys, these guys that are playmakers, along with huge weapons, guys that can fire the puck. I feel like it is a good match to have Krejci as that fourth forward. I think R33 in the Discord was like, both Krejci and Hall go five forward power play, which I don't
That's a
hate
pretty
right
good
now
idea. I don't hate it. Yeah,
because
that's a pretty good idea.
especially with Charlie McAvoy out, like they're I haven't really been sold on their power play quarterbacks, and I don't think they have been either with Lindholm, and I think they have Grizzlick on PP2. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't hate that, but I don't think there's NHL coaches out there that are ballsy enough to fucking go with that. So John Montgomery, if you're listening, I know you're not. I'm calling you out. Put 5 forwards on your power play, bud.
He definitely never did that in Dallas, but they obviously had
No.
power play defensemen. So
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't know. In my opinion, if I was a coach, I'd be doing this every time. Put Bergeron on defense.
right. Well, you have Marner who can play defense. I guess.
Hey man, Bergeron's won the Selke like how many years in a row? Man.
They're smart enough. They're smart enough to do it. I don't know if they have the legs.
They're smart enough I think they're smart enough for team defense to do that. I don't know if Bergeron maybe has the legs anymore to be getting back for shorthanded chances. But anyways, let's move on from that. So Avs fan 54 asked, the second line in LA is interesting. He's asking for a stream save sucks from the second line in LA. Moore, Deneau, Vilardi, they've all been producing. They're all available in most leagues. How much value is there? What do you think about these three, Binksy?
Putting it in the stream save sucks format, I'm going to sucks Deneau.
Yeah.
Phrasing. I'm going to stream Moore and save Vilardi.
Yeah.
I watched tape to tape last night of the Kings, and Vilardi was super involved. He was effective. He was smart. And they were up like the whole game, right? Tampa really struggled to stay in them offensively, and they just weren't effective. I like Vilardi. I like where that team is going on the wings. But it's really important to know that Moore has been effective thus far, and his rate stats have not been good, right? I feel like pretty much anyone on that team on the wing can eat in a given night, and Arvidsson hasn't been doing so. And Iafallo has been out, right? So they're trusting Moore to do it. Moore is doing it, and that has allowed the room for Vilardi to come in and make the more exciting plays. And because he's kind of coming out of left field, I think he's been a little bit more effective than a lot more effective than we probably expected him to. And we should probably expect him to forward. I've been streaming him in a lot of places, and I really don't have any problem dropping him right now.
Yeah. Vilardi for me is the save. Yeah. I'm in full agreement in terms of, your stream save sucks. Vilardi is the save, Moore is the stream, and Deneau is the sucks. In terms of their rate stats, Vilardi is behind only Arthur Kaliev on the team, who is obviously a rate stats god. Nate talks about him all the time. He's second on the team in individual shot attempts per 60 and in individual scoring chances 4 per 60. So he's producing. He's playing on PP1 as well. He's got that deployment, and he leads the team in scoring. There's not much else you can say about that. He's been awesome. Hold him for as long as he can. Trevor Moore, he's a guy that he shoots the puck a lot. He did it all year last year. He's produced decently well, getting assists. I don't think he scored yet, but
having
up some
tough
points.
luck.
Yeah, a bit of tough luck. He had a couple chances last night that looked like looked like a player that's snake bit right now, but yeah, I mean, I still like Trevor Moore as a streaming guy. I've streamed him a few times this year already in a few leagues. So,
Me too.
And he's done pretty well for me. But and then Dano just doesn't generate as much. He's lost. I mean, he had a good year last year, but he doesn't have the power play deployment anymore, and that was a big thing for him. I mean, LA made some upgrades on offense. You've got Vilardi emerging. You've got Kevin Fiala, and there's just no room for Dano up there. So he's not getting those offensive opportunities, and they're trusting him to be a shutdown center, which is kind of what he is. So,
right, especially at a position that you likely don't need to fill. So,
yeah. So in terms of fantasy, he's definitely, I think he's the runaway sucks in this situation, right? The Mark Skinner.
Marky.
What the heck is going on with Lucas Raymond? Is he in drop territory? Why don't you touch on this, Binksy?
No.
Yeah.
Lucas Raymond is the player that we think that he is. What is not what we think it is what is happening in Detroit, right?
Yeah.
They clearly are the talented team that we thought they were going into the season. We apparently do not agree with coaching about how to go about doing that, right? They split up their power play offense. They have completely muted Moritz Seider.
Yeah.
They have lost two very important wingers. They are moving Perron all over the lineup, right? The only thing that you can really rely on in Detroit right now is that Dylan Larkin is going to get time on the ice, and that he's going to convert at the same Dylan Larkin rate, right? Like, am I dropping Lucas Raymond? Not a chance, dude. That is a supremely talented player who should be getting more opportunity right now and is somehow getting less. So I do not know what's happening in Detroit coaching-wise, but the actual players that we're talking about, like we were talking about with Kubalik earlier, right? Like the actual position that he is in is phenomenal. You want to be a part of that. But is it that player? No. Could it be Lucas Raymond that is putting out this kind of output? Absolutely, it could. Do not drop this player. At the very least, sell him. At the very least.
Yeah, he went through cold streaks last year, kind of like this. It just happens to be the start of the year. Man, like looking at these power play, oh my gosh! Like the first power play unit has Oscar Sundqvist and Philip Hronek. I mean, Hronek's a solid defenseman and a solid offensive defenseman. He quarterbacked the power play before Seider got there, but there is no excuse to not have Raymond and Seider on PP1. You would still have Larkin, Kubalik, Perron, Raymond, Seider. Like that is the way to go right now. Like I don't understand. Looking at the rate stats on this team, the only two people in terms of individual scoring chances for per 60 that are above 10, which is good, which is like really, really good numbers, are Bertuzzi and Verana, and they're not playing right now. So
I saw that stat. Yeah.
So that's unfortunate.
And at 2 games.
Yeah.
For Verana too. At only 2 games with that rate stat. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
He's still up there in that board with only 2 games played. Like the system is excellent. The team is excellent, but what the hell are they doing with the deployment? Like,
yeah,
they're not even rolling lines. They're just ass backwards. I'm flabbergasted. Like it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, as a guy that has Raymond and Seider, I have Seider in 3 leagues and Raymond in 1. It's incredibly frustrating to watch this Detroit situation. So I hope they figure it out in terms of the deployment. Yeah, I'm still holding on. I'm still waiting out Raymond, because even when he was playing on PP1 last year, he had really hot streaks. He was really streaky, really hot times and really cold times. And yeah, I just think be patient. Give it another couple or another week or two. And if he's still sitting at 2 assists or whatever he's at, then maybe consider cutting bait there. I think that's all we got today. So check out the Apples and Genos Discord server. Shout outs to the band there for providing our music. Their Spotify link is in the episode description. Give us a rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Twitter. Binksy is at Binklemania. Nate is at Apples Genos, and I'm at JustJoshin41. Blake is, what's his Twitter handle? At Blake Creamer SE. Is that right?
That's right. Sports
Okay.
Ethos. Yeah.
Perfect. I gotta add him into my outro here. Please practice safe stats and happy streaming. Have a good one, folks.
Good night, world.